Thank you for tuning to this episode of Walden Art. Today we're going to be doing an art review and critique video over one of my patrons. His name is Jason. He did some art assignments over on my Patreon page where you can download high resolution pencils, ink over that. Once you're done with inking, you will send it over to me and I would do an art review and critique such as this video. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Walden. I'm a comic book artist from Marvel and DC. You can check out more of me and my work on waldenart.com. There you can check out some of the original artwork that you can purchase, some books that I've worked on, as well as the prints that you can also order from me. And if you're interested in doing commissions, I can also do that there as well. If you're an aspiring artist and you want to have me look over your work, you can check out my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/waldenart. Over there, there's different tiers that you can look at and you can choose the one that's best for you. Or if you just want to show support because you enjoy these videos that I make here over on my YouTube channel, check that out as well. If you haven't checked out some of my videos in the past, I think this will be a very interesting video for you. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. So without further ado, let's check out Jason's work from my Patreon. Okay, so here is Jason's inking work, but before we look over Jason's work, we're going to look at the pencils. The pencils were done by my friend Mike Walden. We worked on World of Warcraft together over at DC Comics Wildstorm. Here's the Spider-Man he's worked on with Rhino. You may see some of this in some of my other videos, but those inking samples were done by other Patreons. On my Patreon, I have different assignments which are done in order. So if you're interested in doing the same piece, definitely check out my Patreon page. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the inks, and Jason has done a really good job on the inking. The inks are nice and clean, nice and sharp. Okay, I'm going to toggle between the pencils and inks. Looks like everything is like right over there. Very nice. I'm going to move further back. Okay, foreground. The line weights are done pretty well. Some taper lines are a little bit off. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So when I say taper lines, okay, sometimes the penciler, when they'll draw certain areas, such as say Spider-Man's these lines over here, what they mean is for the inker to go back in there and close up those lines. Let's take a look at how Jason did it. Okay, first of all, Jason spaced these lines very nicely, but then look at the height of them. Okay, you see how this one is a little bit taller and this one's shorter and this one's taller. You want to keep them all kind of the same height, so it looks more like a pattern. Okay, as you end the pattern, you want those patterns to kind of like dissipate into like nowhere. The spacing that you have on these are nice. Okay, now with some of these lines, I could tell that you went in there with an eraser and just try to clean it up. Sometimes it's just easier to rotate and go back in there and just draw those lines one at a time. It'll be just so much easier. Okay, I do see that you're doing some kind of effect. I see that you're going back in there, you're inking lines and then you're erasing lines. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's just easier doing it the first time. Okay, line weights. Let's talk about the line weights first. Line weights are nicely done. I like how you have lines that are thick and then it goes thin and it goes thick. Okay, the more you bounce the line weights, the nicer the line will look. Try to keep your lines a little bit smoother. Like when I look at the feet over here, it's kind of wobbly a little bit. Now the best way to prevent wobbliness is to ink the line quick. Okay, concentrate on where you want the line to start, where you want it to end, and then just go in there and just draw the line. You see how smooth that line is? Even though I'm doing this digitally, if I did this with pen and paper, it would be the same results. Now if I ink that line slowly, you'll notice that it's wobbly. As much as I want that line to be smooth, if I'm going slowly, it's always going to be wobbly. But if you go quick, it's always going to be like a nice smooth line. If this is digital inking, you can always use Photoshop. I like doing digital inks on Photoshop. You can always control your smoothing, which is, first of all, you use your pen tool, which is this tool, right over here. Yeah, that's the pen tool. And then you can control the smoothing right over here. The higher the percentage, the more calculated and the smoother the line is. The only drawback is there's a slow catch up. You see my cursor? Here's my cursor. I'll ink that line. It slowly catches up. And this is when I have it at 100%. When I have it at 0%, it follows my cursor as quick as it can. But then there's a chance that your line may be wobbly. Now, what you can do is when you're inking digitally, you can always move this smoothing to the percentage that you're comfortable with. That way, you have the good speed for yourself where it follows your cursor as quick as you want it to be, and then the computer calculates that smooth line for you. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do on Photoshop. But if you're doing this traditionally by hand, speed, like inking it quickly, is the best way. When I'm inking, I also like rotating the artwork with my left hand, spinning it kind of like a pottery wheel, and I'm constantly spinning. If you look at some of my other videos, you'll see that I'm constantly spinning. And when I'm using digital, like on Photoshop, I would just rotate it like this. Now I use the rotate key. The rotate on Photoshop is the letter quick key R, or you can use the hand tool right here to the R over here. Okay, so I'm gonna rotate it back. Yeah, let's take a look at some of these. You see how the tail over here is kind of thick? This part, what you want to do, objects in front is usually thicker than objects in the back. Because this is so thick here, you will want this part to be thicker, the Rhino's back. Or if you want to maintain the same thickness here, then I would go in here and make that background a little bit thinner. So let's take a look at the pencils and see how it looks like before. Okay, so penciler drew the back line a little bit thicker. I would go in there and make sure I'll change it up a little bit, make the foreground a little bit thicker. Okay, some of these lines, I like how you have these close up nicely. Those are done really well. So sometimes you can ink that line, go back in there and touch it up, ink that line and beef it up, ink that line and beef it up. There's nothing wrong with that. No one's gonna know that you did that as long as it's nicely covered up. Okay, I like that this tip here is nice and pointy. That's done really well. But these ones here, there's a blunt over here. This is what you want to avoid. You want to go in here and kind of close them all off. Okay, close them off is a little bit better. Okay, we're going to take a look at the pencils here. And then I like that you're trying different things over here. You're going like a line and you're adding this line here. You're hatching lines, you're adding a little bloop there. It looks okay, but it's easier to just close up the lines. I've seen inkers do it different ways. I'm going to show you both ways that I've seen inkers do it. One way is to do like what you did, let me zoom back out, hatching the lines like this, and then kind of like beef up that line, which is okay, but it looks. You can look at it looks kind of like piano keys. Like if you play piano, they look like piano keys. What I like to do is I like to go in there and I would close up those lines. I'll start thin. Say this is the black area. I will start thin. Let me zoom in. I'll start thin and I close them up. Start thin, close them up to a little triangle piece, or you can just go in there, just do one line, go all the way across, and then go back in there and then close them up. You can do that, or if you're really good with the brush, just go in there and do that with the one stroke. Go very light-handed and then press down. Very light-handed, press down, very lightly start and then press down. That way you have the negative triangle tips over there as well. The other method that I've seen other inkers they will do is they'll have like a whole black area like right over here, and then they'll hatch in these lines like this. All they're focusing on is the spacing in between the lines, and then they'll do a double line. They'll do a double line like that. So that gives it somewhat of a gradation, and it's really up to you, like the method that you want, okay? So for example, like over here, you hatch in all the lines and then just do a double line. Right in here, just do a double line and then a double line. That's one way. Myself, I like tapering the lines. I like closing lines because that gives it more of a light to medium to a dark to a black tone, okay? So usually I'll go back in there, either I'll go and do all those double lining, or I'll just go in here and just close up all these lines. I like going this method because it just looks so much nicer. I will close them up, okay? So I'm going to do that again. So we have a black area. Do that like right over here. We have a black area, and then I'll go in here, I'll ink the line very thin, thick, thin, thick. I'll push into it, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, and then thick. You can also go the other direction if you like. Just press down thick, and then ease up on your brush. Press down thick, ease up on your brush. Press down thick, ease up on your brush. Okay, you should be able to do this both ways, thick to thin, and then thick and thin to thick, whichever way is more comfortable for you. When I've been inking traditionally, I like going from thin to thick. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other areas that That was it. Okay, like this area, like the forehead right over here, instead of it a line being there, let's take a look at how the penciler Mike just did this. I would actually go in there and just do like a little double line, just to give it more of a depth. This part here is done really well. I like how you did that. Here, this looks pretty good. I like how you close this up. Like just close that up to make that a little bit sharper. If you decide to have these lines, I would do a double line. And in the mouth area, let's take a look. I'm going to talk about this area right here. That area. Okay, so this area I would approach differently. Okay, I'm just going to rotate it. So I'm going to have a really black area here. And then I'll go thick. And then as I go thin out, I'll go thinner lines and then really thin. What that creates is like a black area into a nice, softer, light area. Okay, so when I go back and you look at this area, right there, what's happening here is you go from a light area to a medium value to a dark value. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other areas. So the background looks like it's inked with microns. Okay, yeah, it looks like microns because some of the lines are scratching. This line here, they're nice and solid. This line here is nice and it looks like it's inked with a brush. Okay, brush or a quill. Okay, so I like using a repeatograph pen to ink background lines. Okay, when I'm making background lines, I like think about objects in front and objects in the back. I like how you added these lines. Just make sure closer to the viewer, you want those lines to be thicker, and then as it's going further back, it's thinner. So I would make these thick, and as I go further back here, it gets thinner. I would keep the consistency of the parallel perpendicular lines. So here it gets thicker. That matches the same thickness as here, that area. Here I would go thicker, and then here I would go a little bit thicker, just to give it more depth into the backgrounds. Okay. So when I'm inking, I like using stencils a lot. I like using rulers and ovals and templates as much as I can. Anything that's man-made, I always use repeatographs and stencils, ovals, compass and rulers and straight edge and triangles, just to make it look organic. Okay, let's take a look at line weights. I like the line weights. There's a tangent over here. I don't know if the penciler created that tangent. Yeah, so the penciler accidentally drew this line that went all the way across to inside the arm, and when you inked it, you also kind of create the same thing. You don't want that line right there, so we're going to erase that. Okay, I like the line weights. Objects in front should be thicker. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker. Okay, make this a little bit thicker. Make this line a little bit thicker. Okay, anytime there's, I wouldn't add that little white there. I would just have this go all the way and just make this a little bit thicker. Anytime you have objects in the front, you want those objects to be thicker than objects in the background. Now, if we look at the hand here, you see how thick the outline of this hand is, and then you look at this dumbbell over here, it's kind of lighter. I would want this line to be a little bit more beefier, a little bit thicker, okay? So it pushes it out in the foreground. I'm gonna use black ink so you can see the difference. So right here on the other side of the dumbbell, Mike Walden kind of also drew the outside of the dumbbell a little bit thicker so you can see it. But when you're inking it, just be mindful of what areas needs to be thicker. So we're going to take a look at the Spider-Man, this area with a dumbbell. Okay, and then now I'm going to ink it with a thicker line. Okay, thicker line over here, thicker line right over here. Okay, I'm just going to do this really quickly. Thicker line over here. Let me rotate this because my hand just draws lines better that way. Thicker here, thicker here, thicker here, and thicker here. Okay, now also thicker here. Okay, as well as here. Now I'm going to rotate it back. We're going to look at it before the thickness and after the thickness. Okay, so here's before. Okay, you see the difference? Now I'm going to go back to how it looks like thicker. Now you see how the dumbbell is just closer to the viewer than how it was originally. You want to create depth with inking. Okay, so that's one thing to focus on. So here we have the Rhino here. We got, I'm going to move back to red so you can see this. Okay, I'm going to circle this. So you remember what I worked on when I sent you this back. You have the dumbbell, which is really close. So I'm gonna make this really super thick. This dumbbell should have the thickest line. I want this dumbbell to be also in the next object closest to the viewer. That will be a thick line. And then after that, then I will have the medium thicker line right here. But when I ink this line, it's gonna be thinner than this large dumbbell. And then back here, I will make this the shoulder. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why the shoulder is like, I don't know why this part is so thick over there. Let's take a look. Okay, so that part's not supposed to be a black area. According to Walden, it's just like a crack over there. So this area, I would just ink that one thin line, and over here just create a little crack over there. Okay, same thing with this. You see Spider-Man's line weight. Great job on the line weight. I like how you're bouncing line weight around. But again, this dumbbell is way in the front. You want this line to be a little bit thicker over here. Okay, thicker here, and here. Also make this a little bit thicker. Good job on Spider-Man's legs. Okay, you have a nice thickness. That line is thicker than all these lines in the back. I like how you bounce the line weight around, so that's very good. Okay, don't ink over lines, okay? Make your lines a little bit smoother, okay? It's still a little bit crackly over here. So just go quickly and then just draw those lines, okay? Yeah, same thing over here. Okay, we're gonna take a look. Yeah, for the most part, I do like how the black is like really nice and solid. Did a good job inking it. Let me take a look. So a few takeaways from this. I want you to practice on your line tapering. Okay, line tapering is these little triangles. So let's start from the back. You're gonna go thin to thick, thin to thick. You see how I'm closing them up? If the penciler drew 13 of them, you don't have to draw 13 tips. It can be 14, it can be 15, it can be like 10, whatever. As long as you close up those taper lines. You want to start really, I'm gonna rotate this. You want to start really thin and then go thick, like this. Start thin and then go thick. Okay, start thin, go thick, start thin, go thick, start thin, go thick. You can always go back, close them up to get that nice little triangle like that. Okay, that's one thing you need to focus on. Line weights, you got it pretty well. I like the way you did the line weights. I want you to focus on foreground, middle ground, background. I'm gonna write this down. Foreground, F-O-R-E-G-R-O-U-N. Foreground, middle, okay, actually, let me zoom in. Okay, let me zoom into the area that works best, like right here. So we have foreground, which is the thickest line. F-O-R-E-G-R-O-U-N. Okay. And the foreground, middle ground, which is thinner. M-I-D-D-L-E, and then background, which is the thinnest, B-A-C-K. Okay, so foreground, thicker, middle ground, medium thickness, and then background, thinner. Okay, work on the line, make these thicker, perspective lines. I know a lot of artists, when they start off drawing, they think that backgrounds aren't important. I actually like inking backgrounds. I think backgrounds are just as important as the foreground. I don't want the backgrounds to all have the same line thickness. I want them to have a different line thickness. For example, like this window, I would go and make this line a little bit thicker, okay, than the line over here. You want different thickness to the backgrounds. Oh yeah, just like what I've done over here. Okay, like see this object, this line over here. I would actually make this thicker to pop this closer to the viewer. Okay, good. Yeah. So I like some of the thickness. I like some of the lines were smooth. Good job on some of the thick to thins, line weights. Your spacing is done really well. I want you to focus on tapering the lines, closing them up, and then think about foreground, middle ground, background. Good job on this. Very nice, Jason. So there you have it. That's one of my Patreon's artwork. His name is Jason. He worked on my assignment over on my Patreon. I think this is assignment number 1, where you can download the high resolution. Take that and then ink it, and then when you're done, you would just send me the scan of it, and then I can go and do an art review and critique videos such as this one. So if you enjoyed this video and you enjoy learning anything about comic books and how to create comic books, please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button, and share my videos if you like. Check out my website. My website is WongArt.com. Over on my website, you can find out more about me and my work with different publishers such as Marvel Comics and DC Comics. You can also buy original artwork that I've done for the comic books, prints, as well as order books over on my Amazon. And if you're interested in art supplies that I use, over on my website, there's a big button that says Walden on Amazon. That will show you all the art supplies that I use when I'm creating comic book art, painting, and any other art forms that I do. So thank you for watching. Please keep on drawing. The more you draw, the better you get. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. So there you have it. Take care. Bye-bye.